Hello, good morning. Let's see. I was just playing around with something here. I have no idea why this text is so font size 11. Why is that? Oh, specificity. That's funny. So this has higher specificity than this. Yeah, that kind of sucks. I would expect this to have higher specificity, actually. How would I solve that? Wow, that really sucks. So, I guess the reason it has higher specificity is because it's like two class names or something, or two selectors, I mean. But this is more specific. Wow, I really hate this. Yeah. How am I going to fix that? Wow, this is like I'm like baffled by this. Like, how the hell do I fix this? And I can spend like ages fixing this. I guess we just have to move this stuff. So we have our list here, and then we have to move this into the actual Excalidraw preview. Let's see. This is where we have the li, right? Yeah. And let's famously call this wrapper. Oops. Like that. We bring from stitches config. What are you complaining about? I guess this. Okay. And now wrapper. Oops. There we go. And then oh, this was list. Display, flex, 9 items, center, justify content, center. Sorry, I just had to fix this thing, and now it's too big. God damn it. Width 200. And probably other shit I have to fix as well. Yeah. Box sizing. Border box. What? That didn't have. Oh, I do have book sizing border box. Did I set a height for this as well? Oh, yeah. Does it have a margin? Yes, 1 rem margin. There we go. Now it's the same. Hand cursor. Pointer. And then we need a hover thing as well. Wow. Yeah, that was annoying. I could probably compose that better, but I don't care. This is not what we're going to talk about. Hey, why doesn't the hover work? Or does it work? Oh, I think I have to do and hover. There we go. Okay. Let's do that here as well. Cool. Yes, sorry about that. Okay, so what have I been up to this weekend? Well, first of all, I built a dev tool for React states, and it's actually pretty cool. As you can see here, I see all my features and what state they're in. And if I dive into them, I can see a history of all the state changes. what that state looked at that point in time, and then if it triggered some kind of side effect. And this says authenticating, and the reason it does that is because I haven't really refactored it after that. So if we see here, yeah, so we have signing in. So this would be like function sign in. Listen to auth changes. So we rather name them properly. And then if we look here now, it says listen to auth changes. And then we have a sign in success, and we can see that. And if I move to transitions, we can actually see the definition and what's the current state. So I'm planning to, like, this looks like shit now. I'm going to make that better. But I plan so that you can actually click these, and that would move, like that will move it into other states. The tricky thing is that some of these actions requires a payload. So yeah, but I do have logic for, I'm using like the stuff from the Overmind dev tools. So yeah, anyways, so if we open one of these, we get our actual Excalidraw, which is in edit mode, and we see all these quite complicated things. And on transitions, we can see like the complexity of this thing. So that's really cool. Another really cool thing is that now I have proper testing in place. So as you can see here, I'm actually testing if the navigation feature is actually registering the routes, and when the route triggers, that it actually changes to the correct state, which is pretty epic. Because the router itself is like, you can't test that. And I'll talk about that, how I organize this. But as you can see here, I have something called the environment provider. And this is related to, like, there's a contract with the outside environment. Like, the application runs in isolation, and then there's a contract with the outside world. And this is what I call the environment provider. And this contract currently has a router. It has auth, create Excalidraw image, and storage. That's the contract. And I define what this contract should look like. And then it's up to, to me, to implement this contract for the different environments, where one environment is the browser and the other environment is the test environment. So we're going to do an iteration on that shortly. But as you can see, I can see that, okay, I'm actually registering, this navigation provider is actually registering the routes. And here you can see, again, I have the same kind of mock. Just changed it a little bit for the purpose of the test, where I'm actually using a component. So you can see I have the environment provider, I have the navigation provider, and then I have the navigation exposer. Yeah. And what it does is basically just make the navigation states available to me. So here I have full access to navigation. And what I do now here is that I trigger one of the routes. I'm triggering the home route, and then I'm checking, is the navigation on dashboard now? And then I'm happy. Like, that's the scope of this feature. It's not to render any UI, but it's to put the application in the correct state. So that is basically what you're doing, is you're not testing any UI. You're just testing, okay, am I in the correct state? And optionally, do I have the correct values here related to this state? I really hope they fix this soon. It's because this type of thing, that's what breaks the... I thought they had fixed that. That's weird. By the way, I'm going to install... Do I have VS Code here? No. Let's download VS Code. Because they actually made a release now where Mac, Apple Silicon. Anyways, so what we're going to do is we're going to make this environment a little bit more explicit so that we write the contract and then we have the specific browser implementations, and then we're going to create a test folder where we create mocks of the same contract. And that's going to be awesome because let's see, do I move these into applications? Oh, I already had it. Ah, that's weird. Why doesn't it pop up here? That's weird. That's super weird. Open. Can I like blah blah blah? Can't I like sign in here or something? No. So I kind of sync up my settings. How do I do that? Oh, do I have to install it maybe? Settings. Yeah, but this isn't the official one. Isn't there like... No. Oh shit, what the hell is... Oh, there we go. Sign into sync settings. Continue. Okay. Whoop, there we are. But I want my thing here to be on the right side. Preferences, workspace, what was the name of it? Activity. Click, there we go. Location, right. There we go. This is how I like it. Okay, so let's open React states again. Maybe it's better now. Let me zoom in a little bit. Wow, I had it zoomed in a lot. Yarn dev. Who? Run dev. What? Yeah, whatever. Wasn't it dev? Oh, sorry. This is not the project. We're going to open Excalidraw. Here we are. Yarn dev. There we go. Yeah, maybe it's better that I have the terminal down here. Anyways, let's see. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, this is good. Okay. So we're back. What were we doing? Yeah, I wonder if have they fixed it now? Yeah, they fixed it. Awesome. Awesome. Oh, I don't like this. I want my what's this panel? Panel left. Okay, how do I get you on the... I think I have to quit VS Code. Why doesn't it pop up here? That sucks. Let's just keep it in the doc then. Keep in doc. Can I ask you don't show again? There we go. This is better. Okay. We're back up and running. No. Cool. So yeah, as you can see, I'm writing the test for this here. And this environment thing is really important because it's just one thing is now we have this separation of a feature which only deals with the state of the application. And then we need another separation, which is the environment. And then we have the components. And the thing is, like, when we have this explicit concept of an environment and we're providing the functionality of the outside world, it basically means that we can run our features in any environment. So we could have like a React Native environment, for example, where the router implementation would be based on what React Native has. Or we can run it in whatever environment we want, but that's not the purpose. It's the separation that's the purpose. It creates way cleaner code. So if we rather do, let's see, let's try to be really explicit here. Browser test. And then we're going to move. Yes, move. And Excalidraw. Okay. Then we're going to move browser. Yes, do that, please. And then let's move the router in there. Yes. Types. Yeah, that seems old. Oh, didn't update that import. Okay, anyways, so we have our environment provider. And now we have, and then we have the interfaces. So this is like index and interfaces is how we define how to expose the environment. Do I need to save this stuff? Help icon? What the hell? New element? I don't care about this. Don't care about you. I do care about you, and I care about you. Okay. Yeah, this is the Excalidraw app itself. This is all. I'm not supposed to have you there. And this should be like interfaces. There we go. Sorry about that. So now we have like an explicit browser environment. So when I actually fire up the application, I have the environment provider. And oh shit, we can even, oh, this is nice. Ooh, look at what we can do here. We can say index TS, and then we can say we can take this. So what I'm like secretly doing here is that I'm building up architecture for the new stuff at Code Sandbox, and we've been like back and forward on how we want to do this. And like we're using Overmind now, but there are a few things that Overmind doesn't do that well that we want to take care of. And that is like, well, it does have state machines now, but so that's good. But it doesn't have, like the state machines are like tied to just the state. It's not tied to the actions, like the logic. So we would have to do a lot of explicit checks, which we don't want to do. And then it's the concept of disposal, which Overmind really doesn't have. So that, for example, when we're on a sandbox and we move to a different sandbox, there's no like automatic disposal of whatever logic and state was tied to the previous sandbox. That's something you have to manually set up, and it's really tricky. And the last thing is it's async, it's and dependency injection. Overmind does have that, like it has the effects concept. But React has matured a lot, and we're also going to get a lot of new people on board. So we're thinking about just betting on React. It's very unlikely that we'll change out React and rather just have a good architecture. So that's what I'm playing around with here. So what we do now, oops, we rather import browser from environment. Star as browser environment. So I should be able to just say this now. That's pretty cool. And now now you see it more clearly. Like we have an environment provider where we provide a browser environment, and then all the implementations here. So for example, the router exposes the router, and it basically uses Navigo, and it adheres to the interface we have defined. This is how we want to use the router. But if I had like native here, like this will be completely different. It will be the same interface, but it will be a different implementation. And then within Firebase, I'm exposing both the storage and the auth, but you see there's tons of logic here that's only related to Firebase. But we have a very simple contract. It's like create Excalidraw, get Excalidraw, save Excalidraw. So this simplifies the logic. And then in test, we can re-implement them. So we can have, so let's just do the router for now. Let's copy this one. And the thing is, we could, instead of having this, like for testing, it's different, right? We want to create an instance of everything here. So here I would rather export a class called router, which can I say extends router, or do I have to say implement? Oh, router mock. Yeah, implements router. Yeah. Okay. So this starts yelling a little bit now. We have navigate, we have on, and we have resolve. Now the thing is, we want to make this mock testable, which means that, or it should have an API that helps us to test it. So for example, here we can see, like in one of my tests, I'm doing this thing. I'm like just collecting the routes, and then I can trigger them manually. So that's something I want to do here. What kind of sucks about this? I wish that when you do implements router, that it would actually give you the typing, but it doesn't do that, which is a little bit annoying actually. It just yells at you if you don't type it the same way. I wish there was a better way to do that. Maybe there is. Maybe there is. Maybe there is. Okay, and this should be like params, where we have param string. So what are you not happy about now? Oh yeah. This should be t extends. There we go. And resolve doesn't do anything. Navigate. Yeah, so this is also weird. Like, why doesn't it? Because we do say navigate here. Yeah, it's really annoying. Why doesn't it automatically type it for me? Because it does, if I use the router on like an object, this is automatically typed for me. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't use a class because I don't like it. Let's just say create router. And this returns a router. Yeah, that's much better. Because now I get navigate and I actually get it typed, right? I don't have to type all this stuff. And then we have resolve. That's much better. Okay, so what we want is to Yeah, the question is, how do we want this router to work? So we could use, we could kind of just reuse navigate there. So we have like routes, and this is URL, and then we just have a callback there. We don't really care about that. So whenever we register a route, we say routes URL equals callback. And then when we navigate, we just point to, and we call it. Resolve doesn't need to do anything. But now we have the possibility to actually use the router. So if I were to remove this now, and then I would rather yeah, I don't think it makes sense to like expose it on an index. But anyways, in here, I will now rather do test router, create router. Yeah, so here I kind of want to see all the routes. Yeah, I can do this. So I say that we return the router and we return routes. Yeah, so we don't really need to do navigate like this either. Yeah, I think we can just do this. And routes would now be, oh. Type routes. Let's make it simple. Okay, so I'm just adding the routes here as well. So when we use this thing, router, create router. I don't need any of this. I don't need this, and I can rather say object.keys router routes. Oops, router routes to equal that thing. Let's add another. And also let's do create router. Maybe we should call it create router mock. That's better. Here we go, router, and now we can just say router dot routes. We can just call it, and the test should be happy again. Cool. So the point is, like, for every single contract that you define for your application, you create like the specific browser implementation to handle that logic in the actual running app, and then you create the mock version of that. Sometimes that's super simple. So for example, create Excalidraw image is just a function returning an empty blob. In case of like the storage, we probably want to mock something so that we can like pass in what do we actually want to return when we do create Excalidraw or get Excalidraw, for example. So you can make that mock more dynamic. But the point is that you have this really nicely isolated feature now that doesn't care about UI and it doesn't care about the environment. It's just the stuff it actually does. That's really nice. Now the one thing about what we're doing at Code Sandbox is that it doesn't have one single app. It has multiple apps that can share these features, which also means they share the environment. And what does that actually mean? Yeah, it's a little bit tricky, because it's a little bit tricky, because you kind of want the reason I'm saying it's tricky is because like in a code sandbox application, it will depend on a lot of environment stuff. That in itself is not really an issue. It's more when we get like bigger dependencies and we probably want to lazy load some of them. And having this single environment exposer, it means that we have to like do dynamic imports, which isn't bad in itself. But now the like pointing to, for example, Firebase, if we were to lazy load Firebase, it means that the storage becomes lazy. And we kind of need to await for it. Like we have to await it every time we want to use it. And again, that in itself isn't such a big issue because the whole thing is async anyways. So, but it would be nice to not have to await these exposed APIs. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think there's really any way around that. But yeah, anyways, so I'm thinking like the same for Code Sandbox, that we already have like the separation of features and we don't have components, but we have like applications. And then we have like the different applications within that folder. But we could have this thing called environment, where we do define all the interfaces needed by our applications. And then we implement it, because there will be more sharing of this than uniqueness, because you could say that each application defines its own interface or its own set of interfaces that it needs. But I think that gets actually trickier. And what's nice here is that you just see, okay, these are the things that environment. Oh yeah. Is it possible to do like, no, because we do want, doesn't matter. Yeah, so what we're going to do now, we're going to implement a new thing using this approach. And let's see, we're going to implement so that whenever the tab gets focus, we're going to go and grab the Excalidraw again. And the reason we're going to do that is because if you're working on this thing on two different computers, you don't want to just 2 seconds, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Let's see. So yeah, we need to introduce a new state, and we also need a new environment thing, because like that's specific to the browser. What's the API for this? Tab focus event, window on focus, page visibility API. That's the one I'm looking for. Visibility change. Oh my god. Hidden. Visibility change. And then where do I check if it's actually... Oh my god, this is... Oh. Document.hidden. Okay, let's try to... This is actually quite interesting. So let's first go and define the interface we want for this. Basically, we don't care about visibility change or anything like that. We just want a callback whenever to trigger whenever the tab is going from hidden to visible. That's the thing. So I guess on visible could be a way to define this, and it doesn't matter, it's just we can just do this, and I guess we can actually return a function here, so we can unsubscribe to it. This is the unsubscribe. So this is basically what we want. We want this to register a callback whenever we're visible, and we want to return a disposer because we don't want that necessarily that visible thing to be called again. So let's implement that. A new file on visible on visible on visible. So let's import our own visible from interfaces. Sorry about that. Did I call it onVisible? Oh, I did it again. OnVisible. There we go. Okay, export onVisible. I'm not sure if onVisible is the right term here, but anyways, let's just try to implement this. OnVisible. And the thing is, we basically want like it will allow us to like have multiple subscriptions to this, so we could just array of and then description splice index of. So this is a simple subscription model or implementation of onVisible, and then let's expose that as well. OnVisible. Okay, so now, yeah, we actually have to implement it though. So since this is only going to run in the browser, we can just actually run the logic here. So it's document add event listener, visibility change, and it checks if document.hidden. Yeah. So what we need to know is, did it go from, the question is, can it be not hidden? Like, do we have to explicitly check that we're moving from hidden to not hidden, or can it only, let's see, Mozilla Developer Network, let's see, when the contents of its tab have become visible or have been hidden. Okay. Oh. Okay, so we're going to visibility if visible. Then we're going to go through the subscriptions and we're just going to call them. Cool. So this is our browser specific implementation. And if we need to, like, if something needs to, maybe we can just do that. So for testing, we don't really care about this stuff. Maybe we want to be able to like trigger if it's visible or hidden, which is interesting, right? So let's just do that just for fun. Let's do on visible. I'm just going to, so in this case we don't really care about, oops, we don't really, what did I do now? We don't really care about this subscription because it's just a test, which means that there will only be like one call to this. We don't need this stuff and we don't need this stuff. So what we want to be able to do, we want to be able to yeah, and that's also a question. Like, I think we again need to do like create on visible, and then it rather returns. It rather returns it. Let's see, like that. And the reason is we need to, let's see. So we could say like trigger, for example. And then let's see, how do we do this? No, wait, sorry, this is the disposer. Excuse me. We would rather do this. Sorry, we're having some trouble with well, not trouble, but we're having some challenges with the baby. It's not sleeping as much as we hoped, and he even got a little bit of a fever last night. So it's like, yeah, it's rough on my girlfriend because she's sleeping with the baby, and she like, oh, she wakes up like every single hour. It's just insane. Like, people have no idea how much work it is to have a baby. Okay, so basically what we want to trigger here, we want to trigger this callback, registered callback, which is just a function. So we just say register callback is this one, and then we return, well, I guess we can say register callback is undefined, for example. And here we do register callback and we just call it. So what we did now, we created a mock for onVisible, which made it possible for us to, like it will register as normal, but it allows us to actually trigger this logic, right? So we can test it. Cool. So I hope I made this clear. Like we have the normal implementation here, but we wrapped it around create onVisible, so we can create one for every test. And we added like a trigger to it. So when we call that, we trigger the callback we pass in, which holds the logic of refetching the Excalidraw. So this is pretty cool. And then I think we're just going to implement it first. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. I just have to, yeah, that. Okay, so now this is really nice. Like this is proper coding. We're separating our concerns, making our code testable. And what we want to do now is we want to introduce a new state, because like when this thing triggers, it needs to move Excalidraw into a new state, which triggers the effect that actually goes and grabs the data and moves it back into the proper state again. So what should we call that? So loading, edit. So we need something like something explicit, like the state should describe exactly what we're doing. Loading. From focus. This is such a bad. Oh my god. Well, we should maybe say something. Well, visible is onVisible. Oh my god. Refocused. Yeah, let's just call it that and see what happens. Okay. Well, I guess that's refocused. Cool. Loading loaded. Now this yells because we need to do something. And the question now is, I think we can just move into loading again. And it should just kind of work. The question though is that if we move into loading, I think it will show like, let's try that first and let's see what happens. State loading. Oh, sorry. Oh, wait. Yeah, wait a minute. So refocused. Oh, wait a minute. Am I thinking about this the wrong way? we don't actually need, yeah, we don't need a new state for this. Well, it depends. Like, if we move back into the loading state, how does this actually look like? Like if we move into loading, yeah, we show like just the loader again. Like we don't even show the Excalidraw. That's probably not the best experience. Like we want this to be a specific state so we can have a specific UI for it. Like we want to put Excalidraw into read-only mode, really. So we do want this specific refocus. So when it's refocused, it basically means that we now we can have like a loading success, or we can have a loading error. That's the thing. So when we move into refocus, we go and grab the thing again, which might lead to a success or an error. But so the whole point here is that loading and refocused is actually the exact same thing. The only thing is that they are like explicitly two different states. Like we think about them as from a user experience, we think about them differently. Loading would naturally have like a spinner, while refocused would just make it read only. For a short period of time, it needs to like update the Excalidraw. Again, I just love this because now we're actually thinking about this. We're not just implementing it. We're thinking about how we actually want it to work. And as you saw, like the Excalidraw implementation started yelling like crazy, which is also going to be interesting to see. Anyways, so we also need an action here, a new action. And we can call it, I think we can just call it refocus. I don't like that we're calling it focus here and on visibility change, or on, I think we should call it on focus. Rename on focus, and then rename, but it's not focus, it is visible. On visible, that's the, yeah, so I think rather we have to change it here, not refocus. I guess it's visible, revisible. Like what the hell are we going to call this? We are well, we can't say like open. Yeah, maybe that's a better term. Like it's on reopen. Like it's more as like, if we think a little bit more generically, we're kind of reopening the app. And then we could call the state reopened. Yeah, I like that. On reopen. Let's, yes. Rename. What the hell? On reopen. Create on reopen. So why the hell doesn't this work? What's this complaining about? Oh. Yeah, and now that, oh my god. Yeah, I wonder why it wasn't complaining about this. Can do this? No. Okay. Anyways. And we're going to call this reopened. And we are going to have a reopen action. Okay. So the question is now, in what states should we allow this reopen to happen? Like, should it be in the edit? Like in, and this is also tricky. Like, when does it actually get the visibility change? Could it be when? Well, it can be here. Reopen. Reopened. And it could be after we have clicked the clipboard. And the question is, could it be when your dirty is syncing and syncing dirty? I don't think so. Like, it's very unlikely that while it's syncing that you move away from the tab and then that doesn't resolve until you kind of get back and get focus. That's a little bit weird. It's such an edge case. And it does mean that we will actually need to have like a yeah, but that if that would happen, then you would be kind of fucked anyways, because then you would actually sync your last changes. It's kind of weird, that thing happening. Well, I guess like since we have this debounce of a second, like you could move tab. So this is the scenario. You're doing an update exactly when you made a change. You change the tab, which makes Chrome pause the execution, which means that the timeout or the debounce of 1 second doesn't trigger. You move to a different machine, you make changes to your Excalidraw, you move back to this tab, it focuses again, the debounce triggers, and it saves it. So it basically means that this visibility change, if we, yeah, like it can happen, it's possible, and it will be one of these insane bugs. And I just love thinking about this. Like, we're actually discovering issues that we would never be able to solve. Like, this is such a good example, is that some person in production would say like, yeah, it's so weird, I lost my stuff, like I moved to a different machine, and we are like, yeah, but we have this thing where we update when you have visibility. And that person would probably never say, yeah, but I changed it exactly after I changed something, it was still waiting for the debounce, stuff like that. But what that actually means is that we really want to, when the visibility changes to hidden, we actually do want to move to a different state as well. Yeah, I think I have to go help the family a bit. Yeah, it's not a good day for us. But I want to finish this. I want to finish this. But yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time to implement this. I don't think we have time for it now. We'll have to finish this tomorrow, but maybe we can do it properly then. We don't only want, maybe we actually do want a visibility change. And then we register, you can register one callback for, well, we don't, so you have one callback, and that triggers whenever the visibility changes. And if you change to hidden, we actually move into a hidden state, which means that, for example, so let's imagine it's dirty, right? This is where it this is where the debound starts. So if it's dirty and we get a hidden, we actually move into a hidden state, which means that when the sync starts, like, because this is what happens, we get into dirty, a second after it triggers sync, but we will allow it to be hidden here, which means that it moves to a hidden state where we don't allow the sync to run. We don't have it there, which means that yeah, but what should we do there? Like, we can't really solve this scenario, because what if you this is tricky, because what if you don't move to a different machine and you have a change, and you kind of move back here, and we're putting it into hidden mode, which means that it didn't sync. And then we move into visible again, and we go and fetch the data from the server, which means that you lose your latest changes in this case. And I guess the only thing we can do there is, if we move into hidden state when we're dirty, we have to indicate that, oh, it's actually dirty. And then the user has to be asked when they get back, hey, you actually had some dirty changes that wasn't saved when you moved away from this tab. Do you want to sync them up, or do you want to grab the latest version from the server? Because we have no idea about this. I guess we could check the version, given that the version is incremental. I'm not sure how the versioning in Excalidraw works, but we could check the version on the server, and then, yeah, that's also a way to do it. So we, yeah, so when we move back into visible state, we go and grab the latest version from the server, but we check if the version is later than what we have currently. But again, like, the version, yeah, that won't work either, because the version we have locally is tied to the change we made locally. And we don't know, you might still have like something locally you would ideally want to save. Wow. Yeah, okay, but this is, maybe we should stop here, because this needs some more thought anyways. And then we'll rather continue. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm looking at the comment. Yeah, exactly. Like, the state machines forces you to think about the complexity of the async flow. It just kind of hands it to you, because you're looking at the states, you're thinking about the flow, and when you try to think about the flow as states, it kind of unveils the tricky parts. At least that's my experience using them. Anyways, okay, we'll stop here, because yeah, we are having a little bit of a family day. But I'll think more on this, and then we'll try to implement something tomorrow. And I have a feeling we kind of just have to, I think we should ask the question. We should ask the user, because they know if they want to push the changes they have on this machine, or they will remember like, oh, but I made some changes on this other machine. I rather want those changes. And like we could implement conflict resolution and all that stuff, but we're not going to do that. Anyways, thanks for now. Have a good day, and we'll talk more tomorrow.